Welcome to the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. This episode is brought to you by Authors Unite. Authors Unite provides you with all the resources you need to become a successful author. You can learn more about Authors Unite and join the free community at authorsunite.com. Now, let's jump into the episode. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. Today I have Dr. Yetunde with us. She is a professor, CEO of Yetunde Global Consulting, and fellow podcaster. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. We'll dive into the first one. The first question I have for you today is, what is the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
Oh, God. I think there's so many stories, but I would say like the number one, I think, reoccurring theme of my life is just having good leadership skills and also being resilient. So I think in every stage of my life, I have been able to put my best foot forward, regardless of what may be in front of me. And I think that has a mixture of just understanding that in all things, I'm still a leader and having to be consistent and resilient. So I think those are the two things, leadership and resiliency. Those are the two things I think that's my underlying message in my life.
And what is the most valuable piece of information we should know that's within your expertise or industry?
I think one of the most valuable information is that in every single sector that you are in, you have to understand the fundamentals of leadership. Even if I'm a professor and I'm teaching politics has a lot to do with leadership. Business has a lot to do with leadership. Any sector, any business that you have, please understand that being a leader is what will take you to the next level, and understanding leadership competencies will make you so much more competitive in the field that you're in. And also, I think it will put you in a different category because not a lot of people take leadership extremely seriously. They don't study it. They don't understand the fundamentals of the necessities of it. And so they go into the workplace, they go into entrepreneurship with missing that big link that's extremely important.
And what's your best piece of overall business advice, so not necessarily industry specific?
I think my best piece of overall business advice is one, to know, to study and know the business that you're in, and also to do something that's authentic to you. So every business or venture that you want to accomplish, make sure that it's something that speaks to your passion, your interest, or even most importantly, your purpose.
And if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
I would say not to worry about what other people think and just continue to be positive and confident in your abilities, and not to compromise your talents and gifts to make other people comfortable. And
in your opinion, what is the key to happiness?
The key to happiness is just being true to yourself. I mean, happiness comes from within. So don't look for happiness outside of yourself. I think the key to happiness is making sure you find it within yourself first.
And what is the best book that you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from that?
Well, I've read a lot of books, but there's one book that I read. I think it was called The Shack. By William P. Young. And I remember reading that book years ago on a plane from South Africa, and I couldn't put it down for like the next 3 days. But basically, it's an interesting book. But one of the things that stuck out to me in the book was it was mixed with a lot of wisdom and a lot of spirituality. And for me, it explained a lot of things that I thought about when it came to God and understanding maybe why things happen in the world, maybe why bad things happen in the world. And I think that was one of the most profound books that I've ever read.
And what is your favorite quote and why?
Well, my favorite quote is by Marianne Williamson, and it's called Our Deepest Fear. But there's a couple of lines in that quote that I love the most. And in the full quote, the 2-3 sentences that stands out to me, she says, who are you? We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, talented, beautiful, intelligent? Who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. And those are the kind of like the three lines that I take out of it. But the main thing is called Our Deepest Fear, and that is my favorite quote.
Yes, I love that quote as well. And thank you so much for coming on. The last question I have for you before we let you go is, where is the best place for people to find you online?
On Instagram, of course, I am Yetunde. So that's I-A-M, and then my name, Yetunde. And also my website, www.dryetunde.com.
Perfect. Thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.